Cameron, what's up?
Hey, what's going on, Rob?
Hey, listen, you remember that whole 29 Palms UAP situation?
They saw a craft.
They stayed there for a solid 10 minutes.
25 minutes unmoving.
Well, we got a chance to interview one of the witnesses on camera. Marine that just separated, and he wants to go on the record. His name, his rank, the whole thing.
That's huge.
Alrighty, well, if we're going to do it, we got to leave at 5:30 tomorrow morning.
Okay, I'll be ready.
All right, let's go.
So my name is Nicholas Lee Longacre. I was in the Marine Corps for 7.5 years, and I separated as a sergeant. At the approximate time of about 7 o'clock, me and a group of Marines saw what looked to be 5 red glowing lights in the sky, and they were in kind of like a check mark formation, 3 on the left, 1 slightly below them, and then 1 up above that to the right. As we looked at them, they just sat there in the sky. They were glowing bright red. So my initial reaction was like, okay, that's probably flares, that could be illumination, some sort of munition that we're out here working with. They kind of thought the same thing, but we sat there for a decent amount of time, 15, 20 minutes, and they were unmoving, unflickering, no variation in the light the entire time we sat there. Flares will flicker as the powder and whatever's inside them burn. And as well as like they're gonna move, gravity affects them. They're shot up into the air or they're falling from the air depending on how they're launched or if the aircraft drops them. But gravity is gonna affect it just like anything else. These things were unflickering, unmoving, they were just stationary right there in their formation. My colleagues' reaction to the lights, at the time we weren't really like, this is anything strange. It seemed, at first we thought that they were flares. However, as we continued to watch, and they were watching with me, we were all wondering like why they weren't falling at all, or moving in any sort of way, or even flickering. They were just steady light flow that was unmoving. We only saw kind of that check mark shape. It was, I think, about 3 on one side, 1 on the bottom, and 1 on the right from our angle. However, we were probably located further out than the Marines that he interviewed. I would imagine that they were actually in the training area, and where we were right outside of that training area, kind of closer to the main area of the base.
After these lights occurred, like the day after, did anyone talk about it, or did everyone kind of go about their business?
Honestly, we kind of all we talked about it the next day, like briefly, but at the same time, like working so late, we were more or less like just ready to go home, and it was strange for sure, but it wasn't one of those things that was like, I'm gonna think about this for a long time, like I wonder what it could have been. Like it was kind of just in the back of the mind, like that's not normal. All right, see you guys later. That was basically the gist of it. So they're saying that there was some sort of downward movement. As for us, from our perspective and what we watched, we have seen illumination rounds and flares go up over the ridge in the area that we worked. We've seen it before on nights, and every time without failure, like you could watch them. They're attached by a small parachute. Most types of illumination rounds, at least, you can watch them fall. They're supposed to light up the area for a given amount of time, but they do fall. You can watch it visibly.
Do you normally see smoke trails as well?
If you're close enough, yes, you can totally see smoke trails.
Okay.
That's definitely true.
They're essentially just like a road flare attached to a parachute.
Yeah,
right?
that's
Got it. But are these, would the 5 of these lights be attached as well, or are they all single individual?
So the only thing that we use that you can honestly Google, even on YouTube or Google, is called a red star cluster. And it kind of is, it's like a Roman candle. And I'm going to get a lot of flack for saying this because it's not a toy, it's a military equipment, but it's basically a Roman candle. It's got a stick, you smack the bottom, and 5 little red stars will come out. And they will hang in the air for a proportion of time, but it's not indefinite. They're meant to be for signaling, just so you can see it real quick, like, hey, that's where the enemy is over there. It's typically what the red stars used for anyways. And then they'll fall out of the sky. The only thing with those that you're shooting them, they're still going to come out like 1 at a time, very fast, but 1 at a time, like a Roman candle. So the odds of shooting them to where 3 are going to be perfectly aligned, I feel like just isn't there. And obviously them hanging in place doesn't make any sense either. I mean, it could have been something experimental that they're using that I haven't worked with that, you know, still hasn't hit the fleet, that's for sure. As I moved out here to Twin Palms, I worked in an area that was an ammunition depot. And from there, what we did was we stored all of these munitions. So I worked with all the ground ammunition. My responsibility here was the aviation side, as well as the aviation equipment that we use that provides illumination or signaling capabilities. So I would be able to tell you that, like, the differences between the two, something that's like not natural or doesn't look like a flare, and what is definitely a flare.
Say approximately the distance that you saw these lights. Was it 2 miles, 10 miles, 18 miles?
I mean, it's hard to be able to accurately estimate distance without something to reference, like a mountain range below it, because the area that we were in was more like the viewpoint was more like a valley. There's a mountain ridge on one left, mountain ridge on the right, but the area we were looking into and the sky above it was all open area. There was nothing to really gauge the distance on. I would say it was a little bit just past where they camp out in the training area. I wasn't able to make out any sort of outline around the little formation. I didn't see anything attached to it, protruding from it, but it was a little bit far, I'd say, and even the lights didn't seem to glow up too much, like against this. They were very bright against the sky, but like the area around it was like a hazish gray. Yeah, so my response to anybody that's discrediting like what happened, I don't know what it was. I honestly don't know if it was something experimental, if it was just a weird cluster of commercial aircraft that flew at different distances. Any of those things, there's an explanation out there, I'm sure. If there's 60 Marines, give or take, that came forward, yeah, you could say that some of them maybe were like administrative clerks, or they didn't have like something that they'd be able to work with the munitions that people are claiming it to be, right? But a lot of those guys are still going to be infantrymen that are employing, or mortarmen, artillerymen, anybody that's employing these weapon systems. They're going to know what it looks like. You can't discredit that. Some people that are saying these Marines are pranksters, you know, 60 of them, 60 people aren't going to come forward. I was in the Marine Corps. If we're going to come forward, we're going to post it on Facebook, like, oh, look at these flares, but we're going to say caption UFO. You know, we're not going to reach out to a journalist if we're not trying to play a prank. Why would you get it so like professionally involved? It'd be easier to spread your info via Facebook anyways. So I don't think 60 guys are going to come together just for some prank.
I really enjoyed the footage that we got. I think we got some really good stuff.
This guy is the real deal. You know, I a lot of respect for this Marine, Sergeant Longacre, for the fact that he's putting his name on the line. It's a first ever. A lot of Marines have gone and told their story, but we didn't know their names, nor did we know what they look like.
It's literally his job to know the difference between rockets and flares and aircraft that are stored on base. And it's also his job to account in the Armory's inventory for all aerial devices, flares, rockets, missiles. He believes 100% of what he told us.
Enjoy the interview, take a look at it, tell us your thoughts. This is very exciting for us. Cam, myself, Louie, we're on the search for the truth. Boots on the ground, literally, and we went knocking on doors. Okay, and this is the first person we spoke to. This is day one. And
Day one.
Day one.
Day one in the bag.
Yeah, day one in the bag, and guys, I couldn't be happier.
This was a good one. We're hoping to do more in the future. With your help, that can be possible.